Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Kings, the 20th chapter. Continuing with Hezekiah, right? King Hezekiah, right at this point, Israel has been delivered just barely, right, but been delivered from the hands of Sennacherib, who sought to besiege and bring destruction to Jerusalem. But the Lord brought judgment upon him. So continuing here in the book of 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 1. And in those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, meaning he had a deadly illness, right? So almost like a terminal illness, right? Like it was to the point where it was looking very bad for him. And the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, came to him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. So get your stuff prepared, right? Get your affairs, your house affairs, everything good, because you're not going to recover from this illness. You're going to die. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord Yahweh, saying, I beseech thee, O Lord Yahweh, remember now how I've walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and I have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. Okay, and there's that emphasis, meaning like he was really, really, really weeping. Weeping meaning to cry. Okay, unto the Lord, that is. And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle court, that the word of the Lord Yahweh came to him. So Isaiah came to Hezekiah. He told Hezekiah the news, and then he was leaving. And Hezekiah, turned, he started crying, he started praying to the Lord. And then before Hezekiah was even able to completely leave the building, so to speak, right, the vicinity, let me use that word, the Lord sends a message to him again, saying, turn around, turn around. Verse 5, turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord Yahweh. So in 3 days you'll be recovered to the point where you can go to the temple. And this right here is very, it's a very important point, because it highlights the mercy of the Heavenly Father, right? Though he had set Hezekiah's time to be then, right, for his illness to take him out, by Hezekiah humbling himself and calling to the Lord's remembrance how Hezekiah walked after the ways of the Lord, right? He didn't do after the wicked kings of Israel or of the southern kingdom, but followed and did the things that were pleasing to the Lord, at least to the best of his ability. He called those things to the Lord's remembrance, and he wept unto the Lord, and he humbled himself, right? Realizing that there was nothing in his power he could do about it, save to pray to the Lord. And the Lord is not like some tyrant, right? That's like, like unmerciful. No, that's why the scriptures say that he is very merciful, but due to the lack of spirituality and the unequal ways of Israel, they don't see that. However, this is an example here. Immediately, right, the Lord, looking at that, had mercy, and changed the judgment, so to speak, which ultimately, right, this was going to be Hezekiah's fate anyway. But, this is just a good example to show that sometimes, something unfavorable might be coming your way. But by humbling yourself, and this is why it's very important to do that which is pleasing to the Lord, because then you can make somewhat of a case, right? And by humbling yourself, when you pray, use these things, right? Pray to the Lord, remind him of things he's done in the past, remind him of, of the things the scriptures say. Use that to your advantage, and when you pray to the Lord, And it may be that he'll have mercy, like he did here to Hezekiah. So, verse 6, and I will add unto thy days 15 years. So as to where you were supposed to die in maybe a day or two or however long it was going to be with that illness, I'm now going to add 15 years onto your lifespan. And guess what? That means that no matter what, Hezekiah wouldn't die until that 15 years was up. And I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city for mine own sake and for my servant David's sake, because the Lord mentioned that he would have keep David's descendants there, right, to always have a light before him. And also, it was through the line of David that Yahushua was going to come. So by all means, that lineage had to be preserved, right, even through captivity. And of course, the reputation of the Lord, right, he was known as our God. So having or leaving us, to completely get destroyed when we were calling upon him, that would bring, it wouldn't be honorable to his name, and the Lord values his name and his reputation. Verse 7, and Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, meaning figs, take figs and in essence make like this ointment of it. And they took it and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. So from that, we get a little bit of insight into maybe what kind of illness that Hezekiah had. There might have been some physical aspect to it, as you can see the mention here of a boil. So he recovered, he started to feel better, and in due time, right, in the span of, I believe, 3 days or maybe a couple of days, he was good again. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord Yahweh will heal me? Remember in verse 7, this is like in the overall, right? Isaiah said, take this and put it upon his boil. And after they did that, right, however long it was after, he was healed. Okay. But verse 8 goes back to the present conversation. So Hezekiah responds, right, and said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord Yahweh will heal me, and that I shall go up into the house of the Lord the third day? And Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of the Lord Yahweh, that the Lord Yahweh will do the thing that which he hath spoken. So this would be your confirmation token, so to speak. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, it is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And what this is referring to here is, let's read verse 11. It says, and Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord Yahweh, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. So, and that's talking about a sundial, right? So if you look up here, a sundial, get an image here. I forget the name of Gnomon. Yeah, I believe that's what it's called, Gnomon. So you would have some device that looks like this, right? It's a disc or a dial, and it has this stem sticking out of it, which is known as a gnomon. And the whole point is you would have like a clock, right? You would have different times engraved on the dial, and as the sun rises and sets, right, you would position the front of the gnomon pointing north, absolute north. And as the sun rises and sets, you would see the shadow that is cast by this gnomon based on the position of the sun, right, would tell you, basically, that shadow would tell you what time it is. And the shadow would move, in whatever, like, I think like clockwise motion as the sun is, right, here's a good example, right? You see what I click on, there you go. So as the sun is moving, right, you're going to see the shadow also on the dial moving to tell you basically what the time is. Of course, it's called a sundial because it doesn't work at night and it doesn't work when you can't see the sun or it's cloudy or whatever the case is. But it was good enough for their time. So Ahaz had built a sundial, And what happened here was, because the shadow of the sundial corresponds to the location of the sun, for the shadow to go forward, meaning in a more clockwise position, that happens normally as the sun, moves, right? It happens normally, in its regular pattern. That's why Hezekiah said, no, that would be too easy. It's like you having a wall, a clock on the wall, right? And Isaiah's like, okay, it's like 12 o'clock right now. For your sign, do you want the time to move forward to 12:10 or move back? And he's like, well, naturally it moves clockwise anyway, so move it back to it's like 11:50, and then that'll be a sign. And it's more prevalent now because now you can just grab a clock and actually reverse the time, right? But by using the sun here, this is even more definitive proof, because the only way for the shadow to move backward is if the sun moved in reverse, right? And so this is a heavy sign, but it confirmed. And that's what it means by, forward 10 degrees or back 10 degrees. Now, the actual degree, the measurement, it's not entirely clear by what that was. Here, now we use like minutes or hours and so on, right? And then we say like, oh, it's 10 minutes and whatever. Back then, however they labeled the symbols on there, maybe like the 9th hour, the 12th hour, and so on and so forth. We don't have all those details, but you get the point as to what was happening here. Verse 11, and Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord Yahweh, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. At that time, Berodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them, and shewed them all the house of his precious things. So he basically received the messengers, the silver and the gold, and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasuries, or treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah shewed them not. And it wasn't just like, it's almost like, they came to visit, you're walking around with them, they're seeing, they're observing all the things you have. He had a lot of good stuff, right? You're showing it off. Okay. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, what said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are mine, or that are in mine house, have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not shewed them. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Behold, the days come, that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And this was a prophecy, and this was fulfilled when we went through, right? When you fast forward into the time of Daniel, latter part of, or really the time of Jeremiah, the time of Habakkuk, and so on, right? Ezekiel, they were there during the time of the Babylonian Empire. Well, guess what? It was the same Babylonians that came up against Jerusalem, and they destroyed it and took all the gold and the silver and all of that. And that's what Isaiah was telling him here. So this was a sign. Verse 18, and of thy sons that shall issue from thee, so your descendants, your lineage, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away. And they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Well, one example was Daniel, right? And the three holy children, because they were of the royal line of the tribe of Judah. Okay. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, good is the word of the Lord Yahweh, which thou hast spoken. And he said, is it not good if peace and truth be in my days? So he said, at least, at the very least, the Lord is going to, he has a peaceful and merciful in my time. So I'll take that. And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit, which we went into that, I think, in the lesson in the previous chapter, in the 19th, or maybe the one before, about Hezekiah's tunnel, right, and the Siloam pool and all those things, right, the construction that he made, and brought water into the city. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his stead. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2 Kings, the 20th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.